We ain't got no troubles, no reason to complain. 'Cause here in Great Old Britain, we just love it when it rains.
Morning.
We're cozy here at home,
even though it's not our own. But wait a few more years and who can say? Everything is just fine. Everything is grand. Your life can get no better when you're living by the letter in this pleasant land. Everything is just fine. Everything is great. The streets can't get no cleaner, nor the rat meat any leaner. No, life is just first rate.
Everything is just fine.
These fish fingers are a steal.
Prices up a smidge.
Just £100 a meal.
Empty purse, but hey, could be worse if there was nothing in the fridge.
Strategic realignment means I get to work for myself. Yeah!
Paying off one more degree with tips from each delivery. Excuse me, sir, I have your tandoori. Everything is just fine. Everything is grand. Your life can get no better when you're living by the letter in this pleasant land. Everything is just fine. Everything is great. We're soldiering on. We're doing our bit.
We're off to Dubai.
It's time to jump ship.
We're tightening our belts with a stiff upper lip. 'Cause everything's just fine.
Good morning, everyone. That was the little video I played this morning. That was actually a Coinbase ad that they were using over in the UK. The UK banned it because it was a little too close to reality, not that far from reality here, which is why I played it. Prices going up, people, a lot of desperation out there over, there's a lot going on, as you guys know. I'm Tabitha with Tabs on Tap. And of course, we've got a lot to talk about today, as always. Good morning, Kim. Good morning, Rob. Good morning, Karen. I am running a little bit late today. As you guys know, I have been just a hot mess the past 2 weeks. I am so busy. It's like I don't even have hardly time anymore to even keep up. So I was really running late this morning. I didn't get in until late from work last night. Some of you know my niece's cat has been missing and I've been looking for her, and I didn't get off work anyway until late. Then I had to drive almost 2 hours home. And then I was kind of driving around the neighborhood to see if I could find the cat. And here's something really strange. And maybe some of you who know or have cats know a lot more about this than I do, is that when I got home and I was looking around outside, there's a lot of land here. There's like a big empty field across the way that used to be corn. I don't know what they did with it this year. Just bales of hay now. Out in the back, we have several acres out back, and then a big wooded area that goes around to a park and so on. So anyway, I'm thinking this cat has to be out here somewhere. She disappeared 2 days ago, and I don't know. Somebody messaged. I put something on the local Facebook page for the community here about the cat. Does anybody see this cat? Here's what she looks like. Call me, text me if you know anything. And somebody had messaged and they said, well, put her litter box outside. If you put the cat's litter box outside, they can smell it for miles and that will bring them home. And I had asked my son to do that. I got home, like I said, about midnight last night. The litter box was not outside. So I'm like, okay, it's huge. I'm like trying to drag this giant litter box outside. And then I come back in and then there's the cat like standing right behind me. And I'm like, how did this happen? Has the cat been in this house the entire 2 days and managed to stay hidden? Or did she sneak in when I was pulling this litter box outside? I think I would have seen her. She snuck in. I had all the lights on. I don't know what's going on. And so the cat ran like under the bed and I went in there. My brother lives, as you guys know, most of you know, in a cabin like out on the property, but not in the same house. So I called him in. He walked up from the cabin and came in the house. It's his daughter's, cat. and it did not want to come out from under the bed. He finally got it out from under the bed. This cat looks like it has had a really rough couple days. I don't know what's going on. She ran in and used her litter box, didn't eat, didn't drink, and then she ran back under the bed again. So I don't know what's happening. If any of you have cats and you have any clue what's happening, please let me know. I'm kind of wondering if this cat has been in the house for the past 2 days, just hidden away somewhere, because I thought we searched every nook and cranny, of this house, but I just don't know what is happening. I don't know enough about cats to know. So I don't know, but it's been a worry, and it was causing me to be late this morning because this cat has disappeared somewhere again in the house. I don't know where she is. Nobody's been outside, so I know she's in the house. Strange stuff. Jay says maybe it was never outside to begin with, just hiding. That's what I think, Jay. But this cat has never hidden before. She's always in the sunroom by the back door watching the birds out the window. She hardly ever leaves the sunroom other than to, go back to her food bowl. And so I don't know what's happening. It's really strange. And I hope she's okay and not sick. But either way, lots more to talk about today than cats. I am leaving today. I've got to work in Springfield, Missouri for the next couple days. So I will not have a show tomorrow. As a matter of fact, I really hadn't planned to have a show today because I was going to leave last night and not have a show today. And I decided to wait and leave today instead of last night. I'll be pushing my time getting there today, but that's okay. I will get there on time. So I had planned on talking to Colonel Joe Adams with the Washington Garden about coming on today, but didn't think I was going to have a show today. I will not have a show tomorrow. I will not have a show on what day is today? I will not have a show. Yeah, tomorrow. I'll be back on Friday. I think today's Wednesday. I don't even know. That's how messed up I am. I will be back on Friday. Will not have a show tomorrow. I think that's right. Yes, that's right. If I can get it straight. Let's see here. Jay says, my brother had a cat. We searched for a week, hiding in the house. I know, it's so strange. So strange. Jay says, we had to use a live trap to catch her. I know this is not this cat's normal behavior pattern. So I don't know what's happening. But either way, I guess we'll sort it out. I won't be here for the next, like I said, day or so anyway. So it won't. Hopefully somebody can keep an eye on her while I'm gone. But again, lots to talk about today. Comey in the hot seat. Yesterday it was Adam Schiff. Today it's James Comey. Again, probably the second indictment we're going to see come rolling through as the evidence mounts against Democrats. We're going to talk about tariffs. This is probably going to be a lot of people I know are really frustrated right now with the Trump administration. They're doing so many great things, but yet it's like ripping the Band-Aid off. And we kind of knew this was going to happen ahead of time because, making America great again, it's a bumpy road. You're going to have your highs and your lows, and prices are going to be one of those lows. A lot of companies talking about raising prices up to 70% on many products. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about the Golden Dome, one of the positives. We're going to talk about deportations, different countries we're deporting to. And I think when we go over the figures of how many people have been deported after Donald Trump took office, it's going to be a little bit mind-blowing to you. If you've already seen these figures, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And of course, we know, Jay says, people are freaking out over tariffs. Understandably, Jay, you know why? Because man, people are having a tough time as it is. That's why I played that video at the beginning of the show. People are having a tough time as it is. People are struggling to pay bills. When you think about this, that a lot of Americans, as we know, the majority of Americans, even wealthy Americans, this isn't about necessarily being poor. This is across all economic classes. Our people are living paycheck to paycheck. And a lot of people don't have any type of emergency fund at all. If their air conditioner breaks or their furnace goes out or a refrigerator goes out, if they have some type of a family emergency, let's say you have to call a plumber, they don't have those emergency funds set aside. And they're struggling as it is, paycheck to paycheck, trying to scrimp around and buy what food they have to buy to get by, cooking meals that are less intensive to prepare doesn't, hurt them as much, on the bank account. And I know people are trying to save money in every single way they can. And even though, Donald Trump is our president right now, prices haven't largely gone down. They've gone down on some items, but overall, prices have continued to rise. And so now we're facing a situation where, because of tariffs, we're looking at a 70% increase in a lot of the products we use every day. Now, of course, the way around that is to buy American. We've talked about that before, but it's not always easy to buy American. We all know that. It's not as easy to buy American. And you if you really want to, it's hard to say if you want to save money, because most of the time American products cost more. And there's a reason why they cost more, because we're paying livable wages to people in America to work at these companies. And it's something we should have already done to begin with. Jay says Ameren, Illinois is a bigger problem. Yes, good morning, Jason. Yes, it is. Ameren raised rates as high as 60%, in Missouri and Illinois. And many other areas are dealing with the cost of various utility services going up. And that's going to continue to increase. I know there's some petitions out there against Ameren, but it's like, how do you fight back against the power company? They really have you where they want you. What do of course, you can start conserving, but most people are conserving already. So if you're already conserving and all of a sudden your utility bills are jumping, 60%, I don't even know what my utility bill is going to be this coming month. There was a time, I don't remember if it was last summer or last winter, my electric bill, this is just electric, because where I live, the electric is with Ameren, and the natural gas, which I don't use a lot of here, is with a completely different company. So my electric bill alone, 1 month, was $2,800. $2,800. I was like, how is that even possible? That was before the the rate increase. And so I had somebody from Ameren come out, which, by the way, they did not want to do. They did not want to come out and look at my meter, and they stalled in every way possible. I even had a lady call me, and this was the strangest call maybe I've ever had from anyone related to any utility. And I put in a request for a meter check. Well, this lady called me. I was at work. She wasn't even supposed to be here on that particular day. So she calls me. She's like, "Yeah, I'm here. I'm in your driveway. And, I just wanted to talk to you about your request for a meter check." And I'm like, "Okay, but I'm not home, can you check it without me being there?" She's like, "Well, when you do a meter check," she's like, "everything has to be turned off inside the house." I'm like, "Well, I'm not there, to turn everything off." She's like, "Well, that's okay, because I can't check your meter anyway." I'm like, "Well, why are you doing this? If I asked for a meter check, who are you? Why are you calling me?" And she's like, "Well, I just wanted to give you some tips about how you can possibly reduce your electricity." I'm like, "You came to my house, you're sitting in my driveway unannounced, no appointment, to talk to me about how I can save my electricity." And it was so obvious that she was one of us and totally understood. And I'm like, I don't need to hear all this. I'm like, I just want somebody to come out and check my meter. In the end, there was nothing wrong with my meter. So they said. It's frustrating. I don't know how people survive. And then to think that, prices of food, some foods are going to go up. A lot of you, if you shop at your local grocery store, if you shop at Walmart and some of these other places, a lot of the goods, including your food, is coming from overseas. It's a really bad situation we're getting ready to hit. And Donna, of course, it's getting expensive to eat healthy. It's extremely expensive to eat healthy. As you guys know, I went on and on about this anti-inflammatory diet that I'm trying to do, because I don't know what's causing all these health issues for me. And it is so expensive to buy healthy meats, healthy vegetables. Going to farmers markets definitely helps. I think it's not overly expensive. Trying to grow your own food is actually very expensive to try to grow your own food, because there's so many things you have to buy to have a decent garden. There is just no easy answer. American products cost more because of the fact we have to pay a good wage. Um, Meats are sky high right now, whether or not you're trying to choose organic or grass fed or just regular stuff. We don't know what it is. It's all super, super high. Food prices out of this world, utility prices out of this world. People are struggling. And I think we're going to end up in a very, very bad situation here before it gets better. Jay says, so far, Trump has granted extensions on tariffs every time he dials it back before it hurts the country. You're right, Jane. He just gave the reprieve. We talked about that yesterday to China for another 90 days, but it doesn't stop these companies from raising their prices due to the tariffs. It does not stop them. Even if their products are made in China, they're still raising prices. They do not care. And Jay says Ameren is mostly due to Pritzker's green policies and coal plants being shut down. Yeah, but the Ameren increases in Missouri also. And Jay's in the process of getting solar. Jay, I would love to hear about that. I would really love to hear about how that works out with solar. Please keep me informed. RFK's push to eat healthier had increased demand, and the growers raised their prices to take it dialed up. And that always happens. Here's some companies. I'm going to give you a list of companies right now that are already increasing their prices due to tariffs. Now, there's many more companies than this, but we're going to get into some of the major ones. And Sherry says, I'm afraid to eat anything from the store. Fake meat, fake butter, yuck. I'm the same way, Sherry. I have shopped less and less at your regular grocery stores. I try to go to the farmer's market once a week, every other week, buying melons. And my neighbor, actually, her son has corn. They supplied me with a pretty good bundle of corn, which may last me the rest of the season. And my corn, I don't know what happened. I did something terribly wrong. My corn so far is not working out, but it's not completely finished growing. And tomatoes in my area have not done well at all. I don't know about you guys. Tomatoes have not done well, but I've done my best to find tomatoes. I've been shopping at a Mennonite store in my area. Lunch meat and cheeses, by the way, if you're a sandwich eater, at this Mennonite store, if you ever make your way out this way, it's in the town of, what is that town called? I think it's called Chaubinair. And they have a big Mennonite community there. And their lunch meats and cheeses are about half the price of what you would find at a regular grocery store, which is insane. And it's healthier. It's very minimally processed, which I think is great. And I'm sure wherever you live, there's probably a similar store you can locate. And it's about not only saving money, because we're going to need it for so many other things, but it's also about just trying to be healthier, which is so hard these days, so hard. And Jay says he was trying to say maximize, not dial. Local farmers markets are charging $4 and $5 for one tomato. Where are you going to a farmer's market? Around here, I have bought a lot of tomatoes this season, and it's usually about $4 or $5 for one of those little buckets of tomatoes. It's a fairly small size. I know. I recently went to a farmer's market. I bought a whole bag of tomatoes, a big bag of corn. This was before my neighbor gave me the corn. I bought a watermelon, a cantaloupe, what did I buy? Some cucumbers, things like that, things that my garden has not been so far successful with. And I think it was $20, maybe a little bit less than $20. So I thought that was a really good deal. And, not far from where I live, there's like a little road stand set up that also has different types of produce. We just have to go out and try to do what we can do to A, be healthy, B, try to not spend a ton of money to be healthy. It is not easy, and it is not going to get easier. It's just not going to get easier. And Donna says a lot of cheap farm help has been deported. Yes, but there's a lot more to it also than just that. We just talked yesterday about how Gavin Newsom has cut water that farmers and ranchers are using to irrigate their farms. They're going to do anything they can to make it difficult for us to get good, healthy food at a reasonable price. Why? Because they want us to buy their government food. They want us to buy their cellular-based meat and their cellular-based butter. So they're going to continue to raise prices, until we have no choice but to buy their government food. That's what the ultimate goal is. It might be a long route to get there, but that's what the goal is. Jay says, lots of success past 3 years growing better boys and good girls. I might have to try that, Jay, because I tried to plant my entire garden is heirloom, and I try not to use any hybrids, but I've realized in Peggy's probably not listening. She warned me about only using heirlooms, that sometimes heirlooms don't produce that well. They're not as resistant to things like the big boys and the good girls are. And I had blight. I had, I think, a problem with too much rain, too much humidity. I've got a lot of green tomatoes on my tomato plants, but here's what's crazy. They've been green for like 6, 8 weeks. I feel like they're never going to turn red. I don't know what is happening. The longest green tomatoes I've ever once had. And Sherry says, but those machines are expensive. Yes, they are. Technology is very expensive. Sherry says replaces the illegals. They have machines doing it now. They do have a lot of those machines in a lot of different areas. Oh, Peggy, there you are. Glad you're here today. Pam says local watermelon was $10 each at the roadside stand. Holy cow, Pam. Well, again, where are you going for watermelon? In my area, I paid $4 for one of those little black diamond watermelons, and it was $6 for one of those giant ones. I think they called them rattlesnakes or something like that, a great big oblong watermelon. And I got the little black diamond, which I really wish I would have got the other one. But yeah, you have to shop around when it comes to farmers markets because they will be different prices in different areas. I live out in the middle of nowhere, so maybe that's why it's a lot cheaper here. In fact, there's a farm stand here. I've gone there and for $20, that's usually about what I spend at the farmer's market, per week or every other week. I had a huge load of stuff, but you have to use it right away because if you don't use it right away, it will not be any good. But since I'm trying to maintain a, fairly clean meats and vegetable diet, I do go through a lot of vegetables. Now I've got squash like crazy. My squashes are growing great. Jay says 3 years, no fertilizer, no chemicals, just water. I don't know what you're doing, Jay, but we got to talk about it because I need to follow your plan next year because I'm not doing so good with my garden. But hey, I'm trying. So these are some of the companies who have already announced that they're going to raise the prices of goods. And none of these names will probably surprise you because they're all made in China. They don't care that Donald Trump gave this 90-day reprieve, halt on tariffs. Once again, they're still going to raise their prices because they know it's coming. I don't even know why really we go through this whole thing with China. Either tariff them or don't tariff them. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to impose these tariffs on China, just do it. Stop giving that 90-day reprieve because nothing is going to change with our relationship between China and the United States. They're not going to do anything different. Either drop the tariff altogether so these companies will stop raising their prices or give the tariff to them and let's just rip the Band-Aid off. And so Adidas, they're facing $200 million in tariffs costs. Now, their products are made in Vietnam and Indonesia. Surprisingly enough, that's where most of their products are made. Nike, and they're anticipating $1 billion in tariff costs. Procter and Gamble, another $1 billion tariff impact. They're planning on raising the prices of any Procter and Gamble product by up to 25%. Hershey, now why in the world? I guess because they're getting their cocoa beans from, I think, is it Brazil? They're facing a $180 million hit from tariffs and the cost of cocoa. They're going to be raising their prices potentially up to 50%. I don't buy Hershey's products anyway, quite honestly. Walmart. Now, this is a given, right? I don't know. When you walk into a Walmart store, I'm pretty sure that they're at 100% foreign goods. 100%. They're buying these things for pennies on the dollar and then charging you, a low price compared to what other American stores are. That's how they do things. They buy in such bulk quantities. Let's say if you go to Walmart and you buy a pair of shorts, okay, you pay $15 for this pair of shorts. They probably paid $1, maybe not even $1 for that pair of shorts because they've ordered, 10 million pairs of that short. And so therefore, that is why Walmart is one of the wealthiest companies in the entire country. In fact, the heir to Walmart, is the wealthiest woman in our country, maybe the wealthiest person altogether. Jay says, shoe companies using slave labor anyway, so I have zero care how much they pay. Yes. And the days of Sam Walden, made in America, are long gone. Oh, yeah, I don't think there's anything made in America at Walmart. Donna says, most clothing not made in America. No, it's not. It's hard to find clothes made in America. Linda says, I got free vouchers to use at farmer's market. I got one red onion, 2 zucchini, 2 tomatoes for just over $10. Used 2 vouchers, paid about $25. The watermelons were $10. I don't have one closer to me. Only a few accept the vouchers. I didn't know that some farmers markets were charging quite that much. That is a lot. Peggy says tomatoes ripen in cool evenings. We haven't had many cool evenings. Isn't that the truth? And yes, Peggy, if any of my tomatoes do start to get any type of color, I do take them off, but that has only happened with one of my tomatoes as of yet, which is really sad. Okay, Kraft Heinz. Kraft Heinz makes so many products that you may not even realize it's made by Kraft or Heinz. So many products. They are getting ready to start increasing prices to offset sales up to 50 to 70%. They're going to increase their prices. Shine and Temu, some people call it Sheen, some say Shine. Temu, they announced, of course, they're going to be upping their prices. They started increasing their prices in April, from what I've read, and they're going to continue those price increases. And if you shop at Temu or Shine, Sheen, whatever you want to call it, the prices there are extremely inexpensive. I know a lot of people who shop at those two stores and then people want to say, why would you give business to China? If you're going to Walmart, Bass Pro, so many other stores, even Target, you go to like these different stores and everything you're buying is foreign. All of it is. All of it is. You've seen those videos where if you tear apart your house, guess what? What's left that was made in America? Unless you're buying all of your stuff. I lost one of my lights. Oh, well. I'll be a little bit darker for the rest of the show. I would guess my area here is haunted. I mean, I don't know what happened. It just fell over. But that's okay. I'm not too worried about it. And that kind of scared me. And my light is really big and it just went whoomp. I was able to catch it before it hit the ground, but man, phew. Anyway, so yeah, sorry, that got me way off track. So yes, anything we buy in the United States is foreign. We're going to see the prices of these tariffs. It's going to hit us really hard. But here's the thing, yes, knowing it's going to hit us really hard, is it worth it? Is it worth it to make the country better again? Is it going to make the country better again? We're seeing all of these companies, plan to spend billions of dollars here in the United States to ramp up manufacturing and production here. So that's giving Americans jobs. It is going to allow us to have more made in America, products. But here's the thing. I don't expect these prices to ever go down. I don't think they're ever going to go down. And the reason why is that, yes, prices are going to go high because of the tariffs. And I don't expect Donald Trump to reverse those tariffs, but they are reciprocal tariffs. So if those countries drop tariffs against us, we will probably drop tariffs against them, which is his tit for tat with China. Of course, he's wanting China to drop the tariffs. They're probably not going to do it. But here's the issue is as these companies move to America and they start their manufacturing here and they start employing people here, those prices are not going to go down. They're probably going to continue to go up. Because when you think about it, let's just say as an example, I don't know of any particular company. We're just going to hypothetically say Nike. Not that I would ever buy a Nike shoe, but let's just say Nike. If Nike were right now, they're let's say creating all of their shoes over and processing and manufacturing them in China. So let's say Nike says, okay, well, we're going to move all of our operations. We're going to close everything we have overseas. We're going to bring it back to America. We're going to employ people. We're going to start a manufacturing here. It's going to cost them a fortune to do that because building materials, leasing, whatever it is they're going to do, buying a property is going to cost way more than it does in China. The cost of materials here in the United States, way more that they would need to purchase. And the price of labor, of course, way more, so significantly more. And we know they're not going to take the hit. They're going to pass that cost off to you. So when I see all these companies saying, oh, we're moving to America, I think that's absolutely fantastic. But the problem is you're still going to pay more for those goods. So I think we're going to be heading into, a tough situation here between tariffs and the American made goods, because they're both going to be pretty expensive, much higher than what we've been paying in the past. So, how do you prepare for that? Wherever you work, they're probably not giving you a cost of living increase so that you make more money, right, to pay for the offset of the tariffs or offset of buying American made. So, it's just going to plunge Americans, I think, into a further spot of desperation. And then what happens when you see desperation in the people? You see crime increase, right? You see more homelessness. You see more people living out on the streets who can't afford to live. You see, prices then in some sectors even go higher because our tax dollars have to account for, all of the people who are living homeless, all the people receiving different types of state aid. I don't see things getting better anytime sooner. I really don't. It's a kind of a scary reality, I think, for a lot of us, that you're going to be paying higher prices. You're not going to get a bigger raise. The inflation is going to be out of control. And I'm not blaming Donald Trump, because I think it's going to be tough for us and probably for our kids. But going forward, somewhere down the road, it will eventually equalize out and it will be better. But I don't think we're going to see that time anytime soon. So we better buckle in and be prepared to pay these prices for a very long time, because I don't see those prices maybe ever going down. So that's something to think about. Lots of other things to talk about today. I want to talk about Comey being in the hot seat. Yesterday we talked about Schiff, and I'll tell you, these people, I don't think we're learning anything we didn't already know. It's just more validation of what we already thought. We talked yesterday about Adam Schiff and the whistleblower that came forward that happened right here in St. Louis. Well, now we have some information that came out about James Comey. Nothing that's a surprise. Here is what it stated. This is another document that has been revealed to the American public, and the reason why, of course, James Comey is going to be probably facing an indictment sooner rather than later. Now, this accuses him of course, in April of 2017, to working with various media outlets to spread the Russiagate hoax. And here's exactly what the document says. The FBI assisted with the April 2017 article. That's the title. Investigators learned that the FBI Office of Public Affairs was told to assist the New York Times with the April 2017 article. According to interviews with FBI employees, Comey either directed or otherwise authorized FBI's official assistance to the New York Times. FBI did not coordinate or brief the DOJ leadership or DOJ about this. So this is a really big deal here. And that is the testimony that I'm reading that states that James Comey did in fact collude with the New York Times. And I mean, does that surprise anybody at all to perpetuate the Russia hoax? Because it was a big plan for the Democrats. It was a coup. That's all it was another coup. They do it in other countries all the time. It happens here in the United States as well, where the Democrat regime staged a coup. So I won't be surprised if Comey doesn't get the second indictment right behind Schiff. And it makes me wonder, like, who's going to be tomorrow? Schiff going down yesterday, Comey going down today. Who's next on the chopping block? And I can guarantee you there will be someone. I know they're trying really hard to get Bill Clinton to swear under oath what happened at Epstein Island, because he was there, as we know, 38 times. And so they're doing their best, the Trump administration, to get Bill Clinton in front of a grand jury to talk about what happened on Epstein Island. He's really one of the biggest witnesses we could possibly have in this case. And I did not even know this, but apparently, there's been an effort to get either Bill or Hillary Clinton to testify for a very long time about a lot of different cases, a lot going all the way back to Vince Foster, quite honestly, going back to day one. And these two have never testified. The only thing Bill Clinton ever testified for was that he did not have that relationship with Monica Lewinsky, in which we know, of course, he lied under oath. So even if we get them under oath, either one of them, they're not going to tell the truth anyway. So really, what difference does it matter? Bill Clinton, from what I understand, is not in the best of health these days. Hillary Clinton, not in the best of health. I don't see either one of them coming forward and doing anything. And it really goes to show that the law is not equal for everyone. The fact that it's been kind of, undercover, that our government has tried to get these two to testify for that many years, and they have always refused. They've always managed to find their way out of, providing any type of testimony. That just goes to show you that there are people in this country who literally are untouchable. And I think the same would probably go for the Obamas and maybe even the Bushes. And how far back do we go? Who are the untouchable people? So it'll be very interesting to see if, in fact, they can get Bill Clinton in front of a grand jury to talk about what happened on Epstein Island. I still don't, I still think our best guesses are right. I don't know if I need Bill Clinton to testify for me to know what happened on Epstein Island or at Epstein's townhouse. I think we all know. And it just drives me insane that Democrats don't throw him under the bus, saying, okay, Epstein, we're going to go after Trump because there's a couple photos of Trump with Epstein. There's a video of Epstein at Donald Trump's 1993 wedding, but there's absolutely no proof at all, including Maxwell saying it didn't happen. Donald Trump has never been to the island. He's never been to the island. He's never been to allegedly been to the townhouse. Maxwell said Donald Trump's name is not involved at all with any of the client list, other than that they were associated through social circles. But they want to throw Donald Trump under the bus. But Bill Clinton, who we know, Billy Gates, who we know has been to Epstein Island, I don't know how many times, those people are not ostracized from society. They're still running around doing their thing, making billions of dollars speaking and having their own foundations. They don't care. And Democrats don't care either. I don't think that the Democrat Party cares at all about Epstein or what Epstein did. They don't care about any of the victims. The only thing they care about is themselves. And of course, these people are completely protected. And let's see, sorry, my comments weren't loading. They just jumped ahead. And let's see, Jay says the tariff problem will take time, but the hope is these companies come back here because it is now cheaper to make it here. I hope you're right, Jay. I do see a brighter future. I just don't think it's going to be, it's going to be harder before it gets easier. But that can be said about a lot of things. And Pam says those prices will never go down until they get U.S. competition. That's right. And Jay says this was never going to happen overnight. Also correct. Democrats are proving they are accusing everyone else of the things they're doing. Hasn't it always been that way? What you accuse, and you can say this in any aspect of life. I was just explaining this concept to my son the other day. When someone accuses you of something, then guess what? That means they are guilty of it. That can be said in any facet of life. And Pam says reverse lawfare. Absolutely so. Let's see. Sherry says Dan Scavino Jr. posted a video of the Roadrunner and said Schiff is hitting the fan. Yeah, it is not a good situation for Schiff. Not going to be a good situation for Comey either, because guess what? They're not going to have that immunity that somebody like the Clintons or the Obamas. Maybe immunity is not the right word, but they're not going to have those protections. The deep state is going to protect the Clintons. They're going to protect the Bushes. They're going to protect Obamas and the Bidens. That's, those people I don't see us ever seeing. We might see indictments. I don't ever expect any of them to spend one single day behind bars. Comey and Schiff, low-hanging fruit. I can certainly see it. And we've heard so many people say that Schiff, he is the worst in our entire government, our worst. I think I read an article one time where there was like 250 things this guy has done that he could potentially be prosecuted for. And his family going way back. I showed a video on him one day for any of you who saw it. His family goes way back to the very beginning of the Rothschilds and the building of this country and turning it, from a republic into a corporation. So of course he's involved. Sherry says there will be no healing until they are at Gitmo. You got that right. And hopefully it's coming. And some of the other things I want to talk about is the Golden Dome. Have you guys seen this commercial about the Golden Dome? I think I want you to see this. It's very short, it's only about a minute and a half. Trump working diligently on the Golden Dome. So take a look at this. Our own defense system. Israel has the Iron Dome, we have the Golden Dome. Like I said, there's the good and the bad. Yes, we're probably going to die because we can't pay our bills, but at least we're going to be safe from missile attacks.
Launch detected. Coordinates confirmed. Multiple threats confirmed. Confirmed. Threats neutralized.
What do you think about that? Now that's a Booz Allen commercial. I'd be buying some stock in Booz Allen right about now. So this is what is being proposed for the Golden Dome. Space-based detection and defense satellites, pretty interesting. You saw those there. Land-based interceptors, radars, and lasers, and then a new missile field in the US Midwest. I'm not so happy about that part. But I think we've always felt kind of safe in that here in the Midwest. That if our foreign adversary, which probably is going to be Putin in the very near future, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Is that we've always thought, well, if they strike us, it's going to be on the East Coast or the West Coast. They're probably not going to hit the Midwest, even though there are some targets in the Midwest. Now, all of a sudden, they're going to plan on putting these interceptors here in the Midwest. And I'm a little bit concerned about where those interceptors are going to be. Hopefully, nowhere near my house. Although, when it comes to, I don't expect that we really face a nuclear weapon. But if we do, again, there's no way to prepare for that either way. And Jay says, I feel the defense system is long overdue. It is absolutely long overdue. That is a huge positive coming out of the Trump administration, the Golden Dome. It's been fairly effective for Israel. We saw they did take on quite a few strikes from Iran. It's not perfect, and our system won't be perfect either. Now, what I'm concerned with is that it's a great plan. We have all of these different defense contractors vying, of course, to be the primary contractor, like Booz Allen here in this commercial for the Golden Dome. Now, we don't know which defense contractor is going to win those contracts, of course, but there's a lot of people in the mix, including, people are jumping in the mix like Zuckerberg, believe it or not. Who would have thought that Meta is, trying to get some of these government contracts for the Golden Dome? Or Bezos with, of course, Amazon trying to get some contracts, Microsoft. All of these companies in different aspects of the companies have turned defense, which is kind of crazy, really, when you think about it. But they've all have products right now that they're trying to market to the Golden Dome and other United States defense systems, which is kind of wild that they went from one place to another. But obviously, they're going to have a different trajectory as things move forward with technology. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Hopefully Bezos and Zuckerberg, neither one of them get those defense contracts is my personal opinion, but we'll see how all of that works out. And then it's just more money. But my concern is that it's a great concept. Donald Trump is going to start hopefully implementing, but I don't know if he can get all this done in the next 3.5 years. And the first thing that's probably going to happen is, let's say 2028. Hopefully, hope to God, pray to God, it is another MAGA enthusiast who wins. Hopefully, JD Vance or someone along those lines, and they can continue the Golden Dome project. However, if for some reason they figure out another way to cheat and they get a Democrat candidate in, they're probably going to cancel the entire Golden Dome process. They're going to undo every single thing that Donald Trump has done. And speaking of wins, like I said, the good and the bad, there are some positives and there are some negatives. And I thought that some of these figures were pretty interesting. Donald Trump, so far in his term, these numbers are staggering. We have deported 1.6 million illegals since January. 1.6 million. That number is far more staggering than I expected it to be. That's a lot of people. A lot of people leaving our country. Now, here's something I thought that was also more interesting, but let's say Jay says the route Democrats are taking definitely increases the odds. Yes, you got that right. The more scared they get, the more they try to cheat and win because they don't want to go through another 4 years of a Donald Trump type era. And yes, Pam, it is extremely impressive. Now, where are we deporting people? I read a graph this morning, out of all the flights out of the United States, and there have been many flights out of the United States. Uh, you know, it's insane actually how many flights there have been. So we are sending from January through July 31st, we have sent illegals to 62 different countries. 62 different countries. And the majority of those are going to, more than 90% are actually being transported to either Latin America or the Caribbean. And so I thought you might find that interesting as well. Another win, of course, for the Donald Trump presidency, 1.6 million. And when you think about it, and the way Democrats are thinking about it, those are voters. 1.6 million voters, people voting illegally in our country, out of the way, not going to be able to go and vote in those federal only or other elections in our country. And of course, Democrats are worried they're going to lose seats, and they absolutely will. And I know that at some point, Donald Trump, we talked about this already, is wanting a new census. When they take that new census, and they will do that, I don't know when it'll be. They'll probably deport quite a few more people before they take that census. They're going to see how things have shifted. And what we have always said, we will find out, has always been true. And that is, they opened the southern border, started to open the northern border to bring these people in to vote Democrat, right? We've always known that, haven't we? And now we've got the proof. So that was something I wanted to get into today. A couple other things. I know we don't have a whole lot of time, and I'm going to be heading out of town, so I don't have a whole lot more to talk about, but something that's going on that I think we really need to keep an eye on. Jay says every 10 years. Yeah, but we're going to have an emergency census coming up. I'm told it's going to be this year. So we'll see if that happens or not. This year, it's going to take longer to plan. It'll probably be next year. But we've got a lot of folks still on that deportation list. So we'll see how all of that goes. And some of you care about this, some of you don't. Ongoing talks between Donald Trump and Zelensky in Ukraine, Putin in Russia. But there's been some new developments that are taking place. And one of the things that I'm personally, there's good and bad in every situation. One of the things I'm personally not happy about is Donald Trump referred to European leaders as good people. Now, these people hate us. They hate Donald Trump. I'm sure that there's some strategic reason he's calling them good people. But a lot of people have been speaking out and saying, I don't understand why Donald Trump is seemingly so friendly with NATO and European leaders, because we know these people have done nothing but try to destroy us for, gosh, a very long time now. And they're not our friend. They are certainly our enemy. They are the enemy of Donald Trump. So I don't know why all of a sudden he's calling them good people. But it's put us in a very precarious situation with Russia, Because remember, when we all went to cast that vote for Donald Trump, it was because we expected Donald Trump to come in, sit in the seat, immediately stop all funding of Ukraine, all weapon shipments to Ukraine, and to immediately end this situation by making some type of peace deal. And that has not happened. In fact, we've been supplying Ukraine with weapons. We're still supplying them with aid, and now, of course, they're saying it's not with your tax dollars, but it still does hurt us. Jay says that's why they opened the borders and sent them to select areas in an effort to redraw districts in Democrat favor. You got that right, Jay, and we're going to undo it. Jay says you catch more flies with honey. I agree. And I'm guessing that that's Donald Trump's plan. Pam Smith's smoochy butt with the Europeans. He finally learned you get less sugar than vinegar. You get more with sugar than vinegar. Yes, that is true. And I hope that that's just his strategy and he hasn't fallen for any of the ridiculousness by the deep state that, hey, you've got to side with the Europeans, because I'll tell you, those people are not our friends. Now, as we know, on Friday, Donald Trump's going to meet with Putin in Alaska. Zelensky, again, not invited to that meeting. The Europeans were trying to say, well, you have to let him attend. Didn't happen. So Donald Trump is going to talk to Zelensky today by a conference call, something along those lines. Now, Zelensky said he's not going to give 1 inch to Russia. Russia says, hey, we're ready to end this war today, but we're not giving back 1 inch either. Where we have gone, we're staying, and they're continuing to make progress every single day. And I read a statement by Donald Trump, which I thought was kind of funny, but he was just blasting John Bolton. Now, I am no fan of John Bolton, another warmonger, no fan of John Bolton. But John Bolton has one thing right, and that Russia won this war a long time ago. And there's no way to backtrack on that. There's no way to backtrack on that. And Trump was extremely upset. He took it very personally. And he said, well, we're winning on everything, not Russia. We are winning on everything. Well, we are not Ukraine. I don't like to be grouped with Ukraine. We does not include Ukraine in the United States. The Trump administration is definitely winning on many, many fronts. However, Russia did win this war a long time ago. I never thought I'd ever agree with John Bolton on anything, but Russia won this war a long time ago. And therefore, Putin is not going to give up the land that he has seized. And in fact, the longer Zelensky and the puppet masters delay any type of ceasefire or end of this war, the more land Russia acquires. And now here's the flip side of things, is that Donald Trump is meeting again with Putin on Friday in Alaska. Now, Trump has said very clearly that I expect Putin to make a deal. If Putin does not make a deal, diplomacy is over, So what does that mean? Well, I think a deal is going to be had, but this may be one of the only times I think there might actually be a deal. And I'll tell you why in a second. But Donald Trump has said very clearly, if Putin does not agree on Friday to making a deal, diplomacy is over, which that means war is next. When diplomacy ends, then the next step is war. I don't expect us to go to war. What I do expect is that the powers that be, force Zelensky to stand down, and it's not even Zelensky, it's the puppets that be, it's the Europeans. I expect them to be forced to agree to this deal. And the reason why is because we have a lot on the line. We, the United States, we're also trying to make a deal with Putin over the Antarctic. We know the vast resources in the Arctic region. And so if we can get Zelensky to back off, the puppets that masters to back off, and we can create this peace deal between Ukraine and Russia, then guess what? Putin's going to sign off on our deal. So that it's a multi-billion-dollar deal with Russia to expand into the Arctic region. So we know that Donald Trump wants that very bad. We need that as a country in a very big way. And I think that Donald Trump is going to find a way to make sure that Zelensky backs down. Now, when Friday comes around, let's just say we hear Zelensky in the media saying, I'm not giving 1 inch, nothing's going to happen. Russia's going to pay, blah, blah, blah. Then we know that we're going to go on to that next step, because Donald Trump said diplomacy is over. That means Donald Trump was not able to make out some kind of deal with the puppet masters, which is, of course, the Europeans over Zelensky. So it's a lot to watch, to kind of keep an eye out on what happens today. Donald Trump's phone discussion with Zelensky. Hopefully Zelensky will hear these reports. And again, it's not him, it's his puppet masters who are going to say, yes, we agree to this ceasefire. We're going to back down. And I do. This time I see it happening. And the only reason why is because I've heard reports that Ukraine has already withdrawn their special forces and some of their special operation units. They've already withdrawn them from the battlefront. So I think they are getting ready to make a retreat. I think they're going to make a deal. If it is, it's going to be amazing. And that will be one for the history books, of course, for Donald Trump, if he's able to negotiate this peace deal. So we'll see what happens. I've never once ever had any hope whatsoever that there was going to be peace, a peace deal made. But I think this might be the time because there's not a lot laying on the line. But prior to that, a lot of people are talking right now about a false flag. They think that the powers that be that control, of course, Zelensky and Ukraine, and that goes back to the Biden crime family. It goes back to the Clintons. It goes back to the Obamas. It's the Europeans. You have to remember, those are the people we're up against. All of those people who have their dirty little secrets hidden within Ukraine. A lot of people think there's going to be a false flag event that occurs. There's a lot of good intelligence folks who do believe that's going to happen. Now, we'll find out. They think that Ukraine is going to basically attack themselves, say it's Russia, so that we all end up in World War III. It's not the first time that they've thought this could potentially happen, and it didn't happen in the past. So we'll see how it plays out if, in fact, we see some large-scale attack against Ukraine in some way. And then, of course, they blame it on Russia. We're ahead of the game. We'll say, nope, that was a false flag to draw us into World War III. And what I'm thinking is going on is that if Putin does not agree, or if Zelensky, if the powers that be, the Obamas, the Bidens, the Clintons, the Europeans, don't agree to ending this war because they don't want to give Putin 1 inch of that land over there, then I do see a war taking place because we're at the end. There's nowhere else to go from here but war. And Jay says, tinfoil, yeah, maybe, but there's a lot of good people saying it. I wasn't going to play this, but Jay, I'm going to play this just for you. And I'm going to play a video. Now, it's kind of an interesting video, at least in my opinion. This is a former intelligence agent. His last name is Maloof. You probably are already very familiar with him. I'm trying to go through because I can't remember his first name. And the way my things save, they don't save it the way I would like. He's ex-Pentagon analyst Michael Maloof. He's going to talk about that false flag. I wasn't going to take the time to play this, but I will, just to go and show you, is there credibility to a false flag or is there not? Only you guys can decide. I'm undecided. They've talked about false flags before, never happened, probably not going to happen this time, but at least you can kind of get a little glimpse into why that may happen.
It's not a surprise if the intelligence is correct. I think it's been mentioned beforehand in order to try and stave off any kind of attempt like that. I think Zelensky has been talking to the Brits, and he's going to be meeting with them perhaps prior to the Friday meeting between Trump and Putin, and I think that the Brits may have been involved in allegedly helping to plan such a false flag, and you cannot rule these things out, especially if it's meant to derail an extremely important discussion, which could basically set the tone for what's to come, especially for Ukraine and future relations between the United States and Russia. So it's not unheard of, and as Shay pointed out, it's the April 2022 alleged massacre in Bucha was also a false flag, and that's now been pretty much verified, and also there's been calls for a UN investigation by the Russian side, but those investigations have never occurred. So you have to wonder whether what is the end goal? If it's to just disrupt the these discussions, then where do they go from there? I think Trump will meet with Putin regardless. And now that this heads up has been given of a potential for a false flag operation, hopefully Mr. Trump has been duly informed and is aware of that possibility.
Okay, so again, we don't know what the false flag operation is. We have no idea what it might be, but apparently the goal is to get Russia in hot water so that we will commence with World War III. So we'll find out, because if it's going to happen, it's going to be today, tomorrow, or Friday, because the intelligence experts state that it's going to happen before Trump's meeting in Alaska with Putin. So we'll see how that works out. And again, I don't see it happening, but you never know. Stranger things have happened. Larry, it's time to end the gerrymandering through Congress passing a law in which every 10 years a new census is taken based on the number states are allocated their number of representatives, the number of Republican and Democrat districts, and each state shall be based upon the percentage of Republican and Democrat votes cast. And you got it right, Larry. You guys can see his comment is a little bit longer, but I'll tell you, let's hope that they do conduct a new census. We need one. It takes time to put that together, though. I don't know if I see it happening this year or next year, because of course, those efforts to deport are going to ramp up in the coming days. So we'll see how that works out. We've been busy with so many things in this country that we haven't talked as much about deportations. But as you can see, 1.6 million illegals being deported since January. That is a staggering number. And I just read this news. I kind of try to keep an eye on the news while I'm making my way through the show. And this just came through that the Department of Justice has directed employees to cease using preferred pronouns starting on August 25th. Definitely necessary. Jay says gerrymandering is a problem. It absolutely is a problem. All right, guys. Well, that is it for me today. Again, I will not be here tomorrow because I'm going to be working out of town. I hate missing shows more than you possibly know, but work has to come first, so I don't really have a choice. I am self-employed, so work is very important. I do hope you guys have a really fantastic day. Hope you have a good day tomorrow. I will be back on Friday. I'm still making efforts to get Colonel Joe Adams on the show. I know he had some new internet installed. I expect a crystal clear, fantastic connection next time we talk to him. And boy, we need his advice more than ever. So let's hope that Colonel Joe Adams with the Washington Guard is able to join us soon. But he is also a very, very busy man. But I do hope, again, you guys have a great day. I'm Tabitha with Tabs on Tap, and I will look forward to seeing you.